A father teaching his son to swim or ski is one thing. A father strapping his 1-year-old to his back in order to take him surfing, quite another. That's exactly what our next guest's father did, and that was really just the beginning. Norman Olsted's father also introduced him to downhill skiing at a young age, and he took his son on so many adventures that some children would only dream of. Turned out those adventures helped save Olsted's life when a plane ride turned into a nightmare. In Crazy for the Storm, Olsted tells the story of this deadly plane crash. It killed his father and how he survived the ordeal alone. Norman now joins us live from Los Angeles with more on this memoir, again, Crazy for the Storm. Such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
It has been years, 3 decades, since you encountered that mountain in the San Gabriel Mountains. Did you jot down the notes in a diary as a child, or just have you kept the memories fresh all these years?
Well, I've had the memories of all the things I did with my father, all those adventures. We did them so many times that it was ingrained in me. And when I decided to write this book, I returned to the mountain with a notepad, and with the son of one of the rescue guys, I walked the same route, or clawed my way up the same route twice. And the information that I got was so good. I mean, it was like I was there again. And because I'm a writer, it started to coalesce. And that's why I went back twice, because I got so many good details from being there and touching the same rocks and wiggling up the same canyons that it was like I was there.
So take us back to that day when your father chartered the Cessna and you crashed into the mountains in the rugged terrain.
Yeah, we left Santa Monica Airport early in the morning, about 7 o'clock in the morning, to return to Big Bear, where I had won a ski race the day before, and then that evening I had a hockey game in Santa Monica, and we were returning to collect the trophy and to train with the ski team again. And about 20 minutes into the flight, we hit a storm. And my father had chartered this plane, he wasn't flying it. And pretty soon, the clouds were pressed against the windows, so it didn't even seem like we were moving. And you didn't know left from right or up from down. And suddenly a limb reached out of the fog. And I thought, oh, that must be a trick of light. And I looked back at my father, and a limb, he was sitting in the back behind the pilot. I was up front with the pilot. And a limb reached out behind his window, and I knew that we were in the trees and we were in trouble. So I yelled, "Watch out," and I curled up. I felt 3 thuds, and then I woke up some time later, and it was like a dream. It was wind-driven snow, fog, everything was tilted at funny angles, the plane was ripped apart, like tinfoil would be ripped open, and well, our bodies were scattered across a icy chute, 45-degree pitch. Eventually I found everybody, and my dad's girlfriend was still alive. And well, it's a long story, but
I actually want to lift a portion of the book right now and directly quote you.
Okay.
You say, "I stared down at him, my fingers quivered and pain seeped into my heart. His curly hair tickled my nose as I leaned in to kiss him, hugging him tight to my body. I'll save you. Don't worry, Dad. He's still warm," I told myself, and squeezed him closer. Here you are, a young boy. You have the weight of the world on your shoulders as you're trying to rescue your family.
Yeah, well, I had some advantages. I'd been on a lot of backcountry ski adventures with my father. I had gone ski racing, all across the western part of the U.S., and part of ski racing is you train on ice. So I'd been in blizzards, I'd dealt with ice, I'd been in a lot of competition, I'd gone on surf adventures down to Mexico where my grandparents lived with my father. And you always had to think on your feet when you were with my dad. And he liked to step into the unknown. And it sort of trained me to deal with having to improvise. And so the blizzard and this was, of course, something that I had never dreamed of dealing with, and it was the ultimate test. But I had been in enough situations of dealing with fear and, again, blizzards and ice that it wasn't so far of a reach for me to sort of tap into my instincts.
At the same time, though, other children you knew were biking or were playing baseball. And you were living such a unique, adventurous life. At the same time, while I'm sure it was exciting, I'm sure you longed for some of the basic things that other kids were doing.
Oh yeah, no, when my dad woke me up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go hit a storm powder day up at Waterman, which is about an hour and 20 minutes from Topanga Beach, I didn't want to go. It was Saturday morning. There was a birthday party I was supposed to go to. I wanted to watch TV with my buddies, go ride a bike or something. And he's like, no, we're going skiing. You got to take advantage of the moments when you can. And, well, he was right. I resented him at the time, but there were moments of beauty within those adventures we had. And I realized it then, but I hid it because I didn't want to encourage him, because then he'd want me to do it more and more. So, but now that I'm older, and especially in my teens, I started to realize he was right, and I thank God he did that.
Your book is about an insatiable spirit. It's about adventure. It's about a relationship between a father and a son. And I have a question from a viewer about that. Nordelio wants to know, how do you imagine people feeling when they're reading your book? And I just add to that, what feelings do you think people will have when they think about their own relationships with their parents?
Well, I get a lot of emails every day, people talking about, God, it made me realize that what my mother or father made me do when I was younger, it had a lot of value. And now I'm sort of inspired by that. I see another side to it. Even people that had experiences that they didn't see so much value in have come back after reading the book. It's given them a new perspective. And that, I think, is fantastic. So I hope that's what people get. They sort of can revisit their own childhood or examine their parenting of their kids right now, which is kind of cool to do.
Well, speaking of parenting of children, you have an 8-year-old son. How much does the way that you're parenting mirror the way your father was a dad to you?
Well, I try to pass the same passions on to my son that my father passed on to me. I think they're great gifts. I think that one thing I learned was that some of the most beautiful things and your greatest revelations and your truest moments don't come from easy things. They come from struggling through obstacles or whatever, and then you find it. And those are often the most beautiful moments. So I want my son to realize that if you paddle and you keep going and you don't give up and you get up there in that storm, you will eventually get that great moment. He's already experiencing these things, and it's a great metaphor for life, because that's how the rest of life is going to work too.
Another viewer, Francis, wants to know a little bit more about the ordeal you've gone through writing. In what significant way has your life been changed because of the air crash experience and the death of your father? And again, at such a young age.
Well, of course, I knew right away, after that life can change on a dime. So I think it changed me in the sense of, in some ways it made me less afraid of death, less sort of it haunting me in the background like a lot of people seem to be worried about it all the time. I saw it, I know what it is, so being close to it has made me less afraid of it. It's also, I try to live every day to the fullest because I know it can end and it can change in some way. So I think that's what it's taught me.
One final question. I know you've studied creative writing, you've studied film as well, and I've learned that Warner Brothers, a sister network of CNN, has just picked up your story. The book has just been released, has just picked up the story. So keeping in mind that you studied film and you studied creative writing, did you write this, because it is so vivid and so detailed, with that in mind that one day it could be turned into a film?
No, I wrote it as just a tribute to my father, and I tried to really employ all my favorite literary voices and styles, which is sort of a more Hemingway-esque, Cormac McCarthy, straightforward, get to the bone style. And I did, that's all I thought about. I stayed right in the story. I didn't project into the future. I just tried to make a good sentence and then make a good paragraph and make a good chapter and just worked my butt off. And yeah, I don't like to look ahead like that. I just stayed right in the present when I wrote this.
Some powerful sentences, powerful stories in this book. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
And I want to remind our viewers as well, you want to read more about this story, you can find it online at CNN.com. Go to the Showbiz pages at CNN.com/showbiz. And there's the headline, A Deadly Plane Crash, An Amazing Adventure.